Emma is 7 now and she's autistic, mostly non-speaking. Looking back to when she was a newborn all the way to her first birthday, there were so many signs that we've just missed at the time. So today I want to share those early signs from birth to 12 months, using our real experience and old photos and videos, in case it helps another parent who might be wondering about their own child. This isn't medical advice, this is just one family's story. The first sign was the very limited facial expression, or what I like to call the blank face. Even looking back at our old photos, 95% of her baby photos, she just has this blank expression, not happy or sad or anything, just this blank empty face. Literally almost every single photos or videos she has this face. So I can show lots and lots of examples of this because that's pretty much all we have. There weren't as many smiles, she didn't have this big excitement on her face or anything really. At the time we thought this was her personality. She was our first baby, so I thought this was like normal, that she would develop these facial expressions. But now we understand that emotional expression and social communication were developing differently from Emma from the moment she was born. As you can see on the photos, this blank expression has been on her face literally from the moment she was born. These are some pictures from the hospital as well with this blank expression. She literally didn't have any facial expressions at all. So this picture is from the hospital from a couple of hours after she was born, and this is the same expression throughout her first year of life, this same blank facial expression. A lot of the photos she's turning her head to the side as well. We just couldn't get her excited about anything really. She always had this blank face, even when she was getting busy with the toys or anything. Since the day after she was born, we've been taking her out all the time, so she was exposed to a lot of people, of different environments. We always went to the park, we went to other people's house, we took her shopping and everything, and it's just nothing could get her attention really. Even on her first Christmas, she was about 9 months old, we're making these over-exaggerated excited expressions, trying to show her how exciting it is. It's Christmas, there's a bunch of presents and everything, just sitting there with her blank face. Sometimes if we would tickle her, she would give us a smile, or she liked the swing. Sometimes the swings could get us a smile. We've had a party for her first birthday. There were fireworks on her cakes. Everyone was happy for her. Everyone was cheering. We sang for her and everything. And she just sat there with her blank face, same as she's been for that whole year of her life. Looking back, this is like, how could we not see what was going on? Not even Christmas or birthday or anything could get an expression out of her. So I think that's one of the biggest signs looking back, her blank face throughout that first year of her life. Very, very rarely she would cry, but apart from that, her face was just not showing any emotion. At the time, we thought that this was just her personality, but looking back, we understand that emotional expression and social communication were developing very differently for Emma. The next sign is also a very big one, extremely early physical development. So we were completely shocked and surprised at how quickly she was developing physically. Almost since the day she was born, she was trying to raise her head and she just couldn't stay still. By the time she was around 3 weeks old maybe, she was able to put her arms down and push her chest up a little bit and hold her head up nice and high. Around 7-8 weeks old, she started to try to roll around from her back to her tummy, but she couldn't do it at that age, and this made her really frustrated. She got really upset because she wasn't able to move as much as she would have liked to. And from a very early age, we put her on the floor on the playmat to help with her development and try to interact with her. The day she turned 4 months old, she was able to turn both ways. So she was able to turn from her back to her tummy and then from her tummy back to her back. That was really surprising. So I thought that's something that would come a bit later. So from that moment, because she couldn't crawl yet, that's sort of how she moved around. She was rolling around to get what she wanted. Once she was 4 months old, she was pushing herself up more and more, and she was able to get herself up to a tabletop position, and she was rocking backwards and forwards a lot, but she wasn't crawling at that point yet. Around the time she turned 5 months old, she was able to do this position kind of like a downward dog in a yoga. And she was also able to sit herself up at 5 months old. That's again something we thought would come later. So by the time she was 5 months old, she was able to sit herself up unaided, crawling as well. So by the time she was 6 months old, she was already very, very mobile. She could get anywhere she wanted. And then from 6 months old, she got bored with the sitting and the crawling, and then she started climbing on things, which again was a little bit unusual for a 6-month-old to try and climb on the furniture and stuff. And she's had this position around 6 months old as well. She would get up on her knees and pull herself up. From 6 months old, most of the time she was in this upright position. When she started all this climbing, it wasn't just the chairs. She wasn't even 7 months old yet, and she tried to climb into the dishwasher. By the time she was 7 months old, she could stand unaided, but she wasn't walking at that point. She would hold toys as well in her hand while standing. She was around 7 months and maybe 1 or 2 weeks when she started to walk around the furniture, but at that point she wasn't walking unaided. She was walking while holding onto the furniture, and she would climb on the sofa and everything. At 8 months, she was already fully mobile. At 9 months old, for her first Christmas, we got her this big push-along train. She learned very quickly how to ride on that train. She was also using that train to hold onto it and use it as a walker. And by 10 months old, she was walking unaided. But again, just because a baby has an early physical development, it doesn't mean that they're autistic. But this is just something that, looking back, we feel that it was very out of the ordinary. We thought that Emma was very advanced for her age, but looking back, it was part of her sensory and movement profile. Number 3 is playing independently from a very early age. Ever since she was a couple of weeks old, she could keep herself entertained, and she wasn't really interested in any interaction with us. We could put her on the playmat and she would just keep busy with the toys. She went through a period of colic, which was really, really hard for her, just as hard as it would be for any other baby. Once we've got through the tummy ache period, she was barely ever crying, so she was a very settled baby. She wouldn't even look at me when I tried to interact with her. She would just keep busy with the toys. If I had to pop to the loo or I prepared a meal for us or anything, she wouldn't mind at all. She was just keeping herself busy from a very early age. It was like this for the first couple of months, up until she was around 5-6 months old. And when she started crawling, then she would just go and explore even more. She wouldn't stay in that area, obviously, but she would follow me into the kitchen. So she was very, very independent. Obviously, being a first baby, I wasn't 100% sure if this was okay or not. We didn't really know what to expect. At the time, we thought it was amazing. Bless you. At the time, we thought it was amazing, but looking back, we understand that this was the reduced joint attention and the reduced social interaction, and this is something that should have alarmed us. At number 4, we have her fascination with spinning and repetitive movement. Emma was always fascinated with spinning and moving toys, or any toys that she's had some sort of sensory inputs from. As she was a couple of weeks old, when we put her in this chair and these baby toys were hanging in front of her face, as long as the toy was moving around a little bit, she was just staring at it and just kept herself busy for a long time. Also, as she was a couple of weeks old, we've got her this toy that made this blue light, and it could project a little moving image on the ceiling, and it was playing some lullaby, and she was so into this. And the one thing was her absolute favorite. We've had this ball that would spin around, so you press the button and then this ball would make some noise, and not only the ball would spin around, but also the toy on top of the ball would also spin around, and she was absolutely obsessed with this. I think that was her main motivation to start crawling as well so early, because she would always try to go and catch this ball even when she wasn't able to crawl yet. She only ever shown interest to the toys that she's got some sort of input from. So we've had this sort of pad that had buttons on it, and when she pressed the button it made some light and sound, so she would play with that. Or she's had this triangle that she could spin the moving element on it, but just the normal toys that didn't do anything, she wasn't interested. So she would pick it up, examine it. Does it do anything? What can I do with that? What's the point of this? Even this train that we got for her for Christmas that she used as a walker, she would often turn it onto the side, and the train had these big wheels, and she would just start spinning the wheel like this. She also loved the mirrors. She loved looking at herself in the mirror. At number 5, we have very early vocal stimming. When I look back at our old videos, I can clearly see that Emma was doing a lot of repetitive vocal sounds from a very young age. At the time, we just thought it was just baby bubbling, but as the time went on, and still to this day, I don't know if you can hear it now, she's still doing this all day, every day. It's became sort of a background noise for us. Sometimes we meet up with people, and if someone makes a comment and I'm like, what noise? Like, we can't even hear it anymore. We got so used to it. It's part of our everyday now. I honestly don't even notice it unless I think about it or someone mentions it. It's always been like that. Ever since she was a baby, she was always doing these repetitive vocal, high-pitched voices. And this is something that never went away. It's just got more and more and more as she's got older. She has some speech, mostly descriptive, and she can ask for some things, but we don't have this back and forth communication yet, but hopefully we'll get there soon. At the time I thought it was just baby bubble, but now I recognize it as an early vocal stimming, and this is one of the ways Emma self-regulates. She also started to develop these odd hand movements ever since she was a couple of weeks old, but this is something that got really noticeable as she's got older, and I think the proper hand flapping and everything came later on, around closer to age of 2. This video is just covering birth to 1, but keep an eye on the channel because I'm going to make lots of other videos as well. So I plan to make videos about different age ranges. So if you're interested in the early signs and what we did or didn't notice at certain ages, then just keep an eye on the channel. And if you're interested in this sort of content and you enjoy watching videos like this, then consider subscribing to our channel as well. And I will also make a video about Emma's ARFID as well in the future. At number 6, we have high pain tolerance. As I mentioned, we did struggle for a couple of weeks with colic. Those were a very hard few weeks with the tummy ache. As she was developing and started moving around, she almost didn't show any reaction to bumps or falls or anything. She would just carry on with whatever she was doing. I think she was around 8 months old when she figured out how to safely get on or off the sofa. So she was able to do this really cool maneuver. She turned around and she reversed back and just came down like that. But she learned this pretty much in a trial and error way. She was falling a lot. Still to this day she falls down a lot. That's just how she is. Even in the supermarket, she was only 10 months old. She just started walking. She tried to run in the supermarket. She could barely walk, but she tried to run, and she was keep falling on her knees, and she would just get up and go again and again and again, and we would try to pick her up just to keep her safe. But she had such a strong will. She just wanted to go down. She just wanted to try and run when she could barely walk. This, coupled with the no sense of danger, is a really dangerous combination. And at that time we just thought she was a tough baby, but looking back now we understand that she just processes this sensory input differently than other children, including the pain. At number 7, we have the food sensitivity, which is a really odd one. At around 3.5 months, Emma started to refuse her milk. She would only drink like 30-50 ml, so that's like 1 or 2 ounces at a time, which wasn't a lot. So we were really worried because she wasn't taking her milk, and I even tried to feed her with this syringe, like put the milk in a syringe and try to like squirt it in her mouth and things like that, but it was a really struggle, and I could barely get any milk in her. At 4 months old, we started to introduce these kind of like baby porridges, and she really liked that. She was eating that, but she only accepted these pureed food until around 5.5 months old, and then she started to have trouble with these pureed textures as well, and she just kind of weaned herself off to normal food. And this is such an odd one, and I'm going to make another video about specifically about this, because from around 5 months old until just over a year old, she ate almost any solid food. So she was eating pasta, she was eating rice, chicken, a salad, fruit, everything. To go from there to being tube fed at the age of 4, still to this day only having a few safe foods, that's such a big topic that this is going to be a topic for another video. But again, we could see her differences around the food. At that time, even though I was worried about her refusing the milk, and it was a bit odd that she wouldn't take the pureed foods, I wasn't that worried, because at that time she ate a lot of solid foods, a lot of different solid foods, a really good variety. But unfortunately, it didn't last very long. At number 8, we have fallen asleep literally anywhere, anytime, which I thought she was just an easy baby, but looking back, it was a bit odd. Ever since she was born, we took her out a lot. So when she was just under 4 months old, we traveled through Europe with her. We took her to the park, we visited friends, and she would just fall asleep anywhere, anytime. She would fall asleep in a park, she would fall asleep in my arm. At that very young age, I could even get her to fall asleep in her cot, but that didn't last very long. So around 4 or 5 months old, she became a really, really free spirit. Even though she could fall asleep anywhere, if she realized that she was in a cot, she would get really, really upset. So we came up with this solution. She was around 6-7 months old, that we took one side of her cot down, and then we pushed the cot next to our bed. And this allowed her to be in her safe space, but also be close to us. If I was in the living room or anything and she woke up, she would just crawl out of the bed, because as I mentioned, she had an extremely early physical development, and she would just come over to the living room when she was up. At number 9, we have very limited interest in shared play. As I mentioned before, she was very independent. She could keep herself busy for a long time. Even when I really tried to interact with her, like I would sit her on my lap and I would try to sing for her or do these action songs and everything, and she would just turn her head to the side. I tried really hard to get her attention and do something back and forth, and she wouldn't even acknowledge me. This is something that I did notice at the time, but I was thinking that maybe she's too little, and then she would join in with these games as she got older, but she didn't. At number 10, we have the perfect baby effect. Emma was very calm and adaptable, didn't cry much, didn't demand much from us, and also her physical development was so advanced, and I think that's the biggest reason why all of this went unnoticed, because at the time nothing looked that wrong and we didn't suspect anything. She was around 1.5 when the nursery started to mention things like they think she's deaf and we need to take her to the hearing test, and they also commented a lot on her tiptoeing and a lot of other things. That's a topic for another video, which is going to cover the early signs from age 1 and 2. If any of this seems familiar to you, then trust your instincts. The parents knows best. Usually the parents can feel if there's something off. You're not imagining things, you're not being dramatic, and you're not alone. And early intervention is crucial. The earlier, the better. Make sure to advocate for your baby. You are the best advocate your baby is ever gonna have. If you'd like to follow Emma's journey, her communication, her sensory world, and our everyday life, then you're very welcome. And thank you for being here with us. If you find this video useful, consider subscribing to our channel for more SEN focused family content.